You get the pay rise, you've earned it. And then payday comes. You check the account, and the extra money is smaller than you thought. A lot smaller. And you tell yourself, well, that's just tax. Here's the part nobody explains. Your income tax has quietly gone up every single year for 4 years running, and not one politician ever stood up and voted to raise it. No new rate, no announcement. You just pay more and more and more. And it gets stranger, because there's a point in the British tax system where earning £1 more can leave you £10,000 worse off. A pay rise that makes you poorer. That's not a mistake in the system. That's a door. And today we're walking you right up to it. Hold that thought. Let's follow the money. Meet Matt, ordinary bloke, ordinary salary, and Matt has just been given a 3% pay rise. He's chuffed, first one in a while. So Matt does the sum in his head. 3% more, minus a bit of tax, should mean a bit more in the bank. Simple. Except when the payslip lands, the extra take-home is basically nothing. It's like the pay rise evaporated somewhere between the boss's mouth and his bank account. And Matt's first thought is the one everyone has. I've done something wrong. I filled a form in wrong. HMRC's made a mistake. He hasn't. They haven't. Matt has just met a mechanism that most people go their entire working lives without ever having explained to them. It's got a boring name and a very unboring effect. It's called fiscal drag. And once you can see it, you'll see it on every payslip you ever get. So here's what actually happened to Matt's pay rise. Picture the tax system as a set of lines on a ladder. Earn under £12,570. You pay no income tax at all. That's the first line. Cross $50,270, and part of your money starts getting taxed at the higher rate, 40%. That's the next line up. Now normally, those lines are supposed to nudge upward a bit every year, to keep pace with rising wages and prices. Your wages go up with inflation, the lines go up too, and you stay in roughly the same spot. Except in 2021, the lines stopped moving. They were frozen. And they've stayed frozen ever since. 12,570 and 5270, the exact same today as they were years ago, while wages and prices have climbed and climbed. So what happens to Matt? His pay goes up, the line doesn't, and he drifts upward into more tax, without a single rate ever changing. He's standing still on an escalator that only goes one way. That's fiscal drag. You're not richer in any real sense. You're just being dragged across lines that used to move out of your way. And you might be thinking, all right, sounds like an oversight. Froze a few numbers, forgot to unfreeze them. Bit sloppy, not sinister. It is absolutely not an oversight. Freezing those lines is one of the most powerful money-raising tools a government has, precisely because nobody notices it. Put the rate of income tax up and it's front-page news. It's a broken promise. There's uproar. Freeze a threshold and nothing. No headline. No vote you'll remember. The tax take just quietly swells in the background. How quietly? By the end of the decade, that freeze is forecast to raise over £55 billion a year, and around 2.8 million people who were never meant to be higher rate taxpayers have been dragged into the 40% band anyway. Teachers, nurses, coppers, people who'd laugh if you called them rich. And here's the twist. The freeze was supposed to end. Then, at the end of 2025, it got quietly extended again, all the way out to 2031. A full decade of standing still while the lines refuse to move. And before anyone starts, every party's reached for this lever. This isn't about who's in charge. It's about a trick that works no matter whose hand is on it. Quick one, because this next bit is the part that genuinely stuns people. If you're finding this useful, the kind of thing you wish someone had explained before your first ever payslip, hit subscribe. It's free, and it's the only thing that tells YouTube to show this to anyone else. Right, let's climb higher up the ladder, because near the top, something genuinely bizarre happens. Let's leave Matt for a moment and follow someone earning a lot more. Because most people assume the tax system is simple, the more you earn, the higher your rate, all the way up. Rich people pay the biggest percentage. That's the deal, isn't it? Watch what happens between £100,000 and £125,000. Remember that first line, the 12,570 you can earn tax-free? Once you're over 100 grand, the government starts taking that tax-free chunk away. For every £2 you earn above 100,000, you lose £1 of your tax-free allowance. And when you run the maths on what that actually does, every pound you earn in that band ends up taxed at around 60%. 60%, higher than the official top rate of tax in this country. So someone on 110 grand is, on part of their income, handing over a bigger slice than someone earning $1 million. The person who feels comfortably off is taxed harder than the person in the actual mansion. It's a little sinkhole right in the middle of the ladder that almost nobody knows is there until they're standing in it. And if you think that's the strange part, I've saved the strangest for last. Because for one specific group of people, that 60% is just the warm-up. Now add one more detail. Our higher earner has a small child in nursery. In the UK, working parents of young kids get a genuinely enormous amount of help with childcare. Funded hours at nursery, plus a top-up scheme worth up to £2,000 a year per child. If you've got a toddler in full-time care, that support can be worth £10,000, £15,000 a year, life-changing money. And all of it vanishes the second one parent earns over £100,000. Not gradually, not eased off gently. It falls off a cliff. At £99,999, you get the lot. At £100,001, you get nothing. The funded hours collapse. The £2,000 a year disappears over a single pound of income. So let's do the sum that ruins someone's entire week. Picture a parent sitting at exactly $100,000, offered a pay rise. They take it. That extra income is already being taxed at the 60% we just talked about. And on top of that, it tips them over the childcare cliff, so they lose all the childcare support as well. Run the numbers, and in the worst cases, a £1,000 pay rise can leave a family around £10,000 worse off. They said yes to more money, and their bank balance went down. That's not a thought experiment. That's a live, working feature of the system right now. And the part that tips it into the absurd? It's tested on each parent individually. So two parents earning 60 grand each, 120,000 coming into the house. Keep every penny of the child care help. One parent on 100,000, with a partner at home earning nothing, they lose all of it. Nearly identical household, wildly different treatment, entirely because of where one line happens to fall. Which is why, and this genuinely happens, thousands of parents actively turn down promotions and refuse bonuses. Not out of laziness, out of arithmetic, because saying yes would make them poorer. So how do the people who know about all this deal with it? They don't earn less. They move the line themselves. Money you put into a pension comes off the income the government counts. So a parent sitting just over 100,000 can funnel the excess straight into their pension, dropping their official income back under the cliff. They keep the tax-free allowance, they keep the child care, and the money isn't gone. It's sitting in their own pension pot, waiting for them later. That's the quiet divide running through this entire system. It's not really between people who earn a lot and people who earn a little. It's between the people who know where the lines are and the people who walk into them blind. So let's put Matt back together, and everyone's standing above him on the ladder. Nobody raised your taxes. That's the whole trick. They just stopped moving the lines and let inflation quietly walk you into them. They peeled the tax-free allowance off the comfortably off and taxed them harder than millionaires. And they built a cliff at 100 grand steep enough that parents turned down pay rises to avoid falling off it. None of it needed a vote. None of it made the news. It's the biggest tax rise in a generation, and it happened in near total silence. Because the real genius of it is that it feels like nothing at all. Just a pay rise that came in a bit smaller than you hoped. Every single year. You can't move the lines back on your own, but you can at least know where they are, which honestly puts you ahead of most people who will ever hold a pay slip. I've pulled the big ones into a plain English guide, links in the description if you want it. And subscribe, one ordinary thing, taken quietly apart, every week. Then be honest in the comments. Has a pay rise ever landed smaller than you expected? Because now you know exactly which line you crossed. I want to hear it.